Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about why I chose the all-new Range Rover Sport. Getting right into the video, I'll go ahead and give some history into my decision-making process. This goes back probably about 5 or so months now, and it all begins with some of the first videos I began to see review-wise on this particular vehicle. And I hadn't had my eyes open to the Range Rover Sport, let alone even anything within Land Rover's lineup as an entire brand. And so now to sit here in said vehicle, I'd like to think that I have a unique perspective in that there's no brand loyalty, there's no sought after prestige or anything like that. Rather, instead, my own personal reasons stem from the exterior looks matched alongside this immaculate interior. Trailing off of those 2 points, then comes into play this crazy thing called a driving experience. Although, depending on who you ask, it might not be that. And what I mean by that is, this particular vehicle isn't very sporty, so to say. It's quick on its feet, with this particular engine configuration being 5.7 seconds, 0 to 60, which is, it's not a rocket ship, quoting miles per hour, but it's plenty quick enough, and it's got enough power and an overall feel that, to me, you're really getting a decent bang for the buck. Now, again, if you're looking for something more performance-oriented, then I'm sure you already know this, but this isn't the vehicle for you. Unless, of course, you're opting for the newly announced SV version for the 2024 Range Rover Sport, in which case those are all sold out at present, and if you want to get your hands on one, you'll probably end up having to pay at least $50,000 over what they want, which is probably going to be somewhere around $225,000 for a Range Rover Sport, which is kind of insane, but hey, that decision isn't up to me now, is it? Going back to my own vehicle here, I have the P360 engine configuration, and the reason why I opted for this particular trim is because it gives, at least to me, the best of all worlds. For the 2023/2024 lineup, if you're not going all out for either the PHEV, which is the plug-in hybrid version of this vehicle, or the P530, which is the first edition, both of which are years out in terms of their production lines, then you're left with either the P360 or the P400. And between those two, it's roughly a $7,000 starting difference. And what you're getting between the two is a difference between 0.3 seconds for the 0 to 60, 5.4 versus, again, the 5.7 that we currently have here. And you have some exterior changes that, to me, honestly, I think look better on this version as opposed to the P400. Now, top alongside that, a couple of cosmetic changes, or rather differences in the way that things are set up. Again, with this one being the all solids without any trim. So we have the all white center console, and again, it's an all white trim instead of having black and white between the two. And then also having this different steering wheel. Admittedly, I do prefer the steering wheel design on the P400, as it has more white all around, which is the black on the outside. And then there's actually this finished aluminum here, which I'll go ahead and show you on screen, as opposed to then the dark chrome finish that we see throughout the rest of the cabin. $7,000, 40 horsepower, and to me, again, less favorable cosmetics. But for me, and what I think makes sense for the vast majority of people, I think that this trim is the one to go for. I opted for this vehicle coming from the Explorer ST, which was 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. And that vehicle was radically different in a few senses. One key difference between these two isn't related to the speed or the horsepower or the overall 0 to 60, but instead comes down to the interior space. For the Explorer, the ST trim only was available with black interior, so it was all black everything. And unfortunately, at my time of purchase, because of the limited availability last year, it's gotten a little bit better now for those vehicles, but at that time, I wasn't able to find one with the panoramic moonroof. And when you've got the all black interior on the larger size SUV, such as these, 5 inches difference between this and the ST, well, then to me, it's nice to have something that it will lighten up the cabin. And so if it's not going to be the interior color, then at the very least it needs to be an additional amount of greenhouse coming from the roofing panels. I was able to get that, obviously, as it comes with these vehicles as standard. So between the roof and the white interior in here, it's a very, very spacious and lively cabin. I absolutely love everything about this interior space, and that is going to segue into that driving experience I had earlier noted, in that no, this isn't any form of dynamic driving experience, something that you get a lot with a sports car, or in the SUV form, even the ST Explorer, or more aptly, Porsche's offerings. But if you're not seeking that, then this is refinement at its core. This is the smoothest riding vehicle that I have ever driven, ridden in, all the works. And to have not just the smoothness within the ride and road feel, but also within the engine is something truly to be experienced. And that's where I, again, trail back to that term of driving experience, because everything that you would want within a waft along adventure, whether it's a road trip or even, daily commutes, to me, the more relaxing that experience can be, the better, because it's not exactly as though driving is the least stressful thing to be doing. And so to have additional comforts that ease up on that and sort of remove you from the stresses of daily life, well, again, that's where this really is it for me. Now, after all that praise, there is going to unfortunately be one negative elephant in the room that has to be addressed, and that is the wait time for these vehicles. Luckily, I had a relationship with the salesperson at this dealership, and the gal who had pre-ordered this one had waited over a year, 13 months in fact, for this vehicle to come in. And in her case, unfortunately, wasn't approved in the end, and thus it left the vehicle for sale. And pretty much on that same day, I had scooped it right up after it was noted as being available. And if it wasn't me on that same day, it most certainly would have been someone else who purchased it and drove off with it. And that's because, again, that wait time for these is just so long. And that's for every single model and trim. There's nothing within the Range Rover Sports lineup that will be available anytime soon. And so mine, configured as I want, I'm still looking at probably the earliest of December. And, to be able to have at least this in the meantime is really, really very fortunate for me. And I'm grateful for things to have worked out in my favor. But still, it's tough being able to speak such high praise of this vehicle when you really can't get it. It's really, really unfortunate. And for those who can get it, most of the time it's either going to be a situation such as the one where I experienced, where someone had ordered it, waited an extremely long time for it, and then either had a change of mind at the end once it actually got there. Maybe they bought something else and were content with that, or their finance was approved, or who knows what the life situation was. But those rarities, or buying it as a pre-owned vehicle, which allows them to be opened up for markups, and the current, even Kelley Blue Book estimate on a used one of these of any mileage is about $20,000 higher than the sticker price, which is just, amazing. It's just amazing. But again, it makes sense based on the current demand and lack of supply. So after noting that major con, that's going to conclude my video here today. And so if there are any additional questions that any of you have on this vehicle, particularly related to this trim, since it's not really reviewed at all, then please let me know. Write them down in the comments, and I will answer everything that I can. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it, and we'll see you again for the next video.